You are not in control. So this morning I'm going through, good morning by the way. This morning I'm going through, it's my Tuesday morning Bible study with a bunch of men, bunch of wonderful men, all from different backgrounds, all from different ages. I am the youngest in the group, not like that matters. It gives me a lot of good input, and I think it gives them a lot of good input as well. But basically, we're going through Ephesians 3 today. And God's love for us is so much, and it basically got to the point where we were talking about how God's love is four-dimensional, and it's so much that we can't comprehend it. And it was just crazy thinking about that. But one of the men, he talked about in a podcast he listened to where basically they took a bunch of beavers and they put it in a dry desert land in Florida, and that ended up growing into an entire ecosystem and bringing everything back. And it made me think about how there's this book I read a long time ago, As a Man Thinketh. Highly recommend. I only read a quarter of the book and it stuck with me for years. But in that book, it talks about how every thought we have is a seed that gets planted in our thought garden in our mind and soul. And it's up to us to decide which ones to nurture and which ones to rip out. And so for years, I thought that my thought garden, I thought that the garden that was rooted, that Jesus is rooting in my soul, was more of like the garden that you plant outside, that's organized in cases where you have rows of carrots, where you have rows of parsley. Just thinking of the first vegetables that come to mind. But as he was talking about this like beaver reference, it made me start to think about how when we walk outside, I would refer to it as chaos gardening, but God has planted and created every single ecosystem outside. He's created the lakes, rivers, everything is so intricately designed by him because he loves us, but because of all sorts of things that we can't comprehend basically. But so it made me start to think about how the thought garden I originally had, what I had originally pictured, maybe it's more like, we don't know what the Garden of Eden looked like, but if I was in the Garden of Eden, I don't picture it anymore being trees here, plants here, bushes here. I picture it all being together, from grass to flowers to bushes to trees, all sorts of stuff that God has in general, with fruit trees all over the place where it's not organized. And that was pretty cool thinking about, because it made me start to think about my thought garden as a tree here that is love that God has for me, that I have for other people, and flowers here of discipline, and bushes here of other fruits of the Spirit that have been growing in my soul to help me to just to be more like a Psalms 1, Ephesians 5 type of person. And those verses have helped out quite a bit. I'm how far into my journey, and I'm just now realizing those kinds of things. But it all coming together made me start to realize how much I'm not in control, and how much my thought garden I'm not in control of, but how much he's in control of everything in our life. And I hope it all makes sense to you guys, kind of. But it was a very great breakthrough from just my Bible study group that everybody helped kind of me to start to think about. And it also just, you're here for a reason. Everywhere and everything we do happens for a reason. And God's love for us is just so immaculate. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless.